right. Welcome, folks. The list is growing. We'll give everybody just a second to get into the room. Glad you're all here. All right. All right, well, we have a lot to do tonight, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started, even though I know we'll have folks continuing to stream in this evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Lake Forest Park City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Amy Wittenberg. I am the Executive Director of Third Place Commons, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's event. For those of you who don't know, if there is anyone, Third Place Commons is a nonprofit organization that presents hundreds of free events, even now, including both weekly programs and special events like tonight, as well as our flagship program, the Lake Forest Park Farmers Market, which remains open on Sundays until October 17th. During the pandemic, we've migrated many of our programs to Zoom, like tonight, but we've also resumed live music on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Now, I want to tell you about one particular notable event that's coming up, which is another nonpartisan program like tonight. Since you're all Lake Forest Park voters, please be sure to join us on Saturday, October 16th for our Prop 1 Pros and Cons Forum. So that should be just after your ballots reach your mailboxes. So hold off a couple days and join us on the 16th before casting your ballots. And you can find the link to register for that forum or information on our other programs by following our social media or visiting our website. So you can find everything there. Go and have a look. Now, I am going to take that down and move on to tonight's program. I want to thank, first of all of our candidates for joining us this evening. We are very, very grateful for your participation. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters for their amazing ongoing partnership in helping us to bring important nonpartisan programs like this one to our community. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for the evening. Chelsea Jordan is the Voter Service Co-Chair on the board of League of Women Voters of Seattle-King County. And she's going to lead you through the rest of the evening. So Chelsea, please take it away.
Hi, thank you for attending. This is the candidate forum for the Lake Forest Park City Council. We have 4 different positions tonight with 7 total candidates that we'll be hearing from. Let's see. The League of Women Voters of Seattle-King County is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. And we're very thankful for the Third Place Commons to be hosting tonight. So I will start with introducing the candidates. We'll begin with position 1. First, we have candidate Semra Riddle. Then in position 3, we have Stephanie Angelis and John Lebo. In position 5, we have Tracy Furutani and Maddie Larson. And in position 7, we have Larry Goldman and Paul Sanford. The questions will be answered one candidate at a time, with one candidate going first and then the other in alternating order for each question. Please no screen recording. This event is being recorded and will be posted in its entirety. So we'll start first with 2-minute opening statements, followed by time-prepared questions that we have ready in case we don't get a ton of audience participation. Then we'll move on to audience questions until we end with 1-minute closing statements. Audience members may submit questions for candidates through the Zoom Q&A function, please not in the chat. Questions may be reworded for clarity or brevity, or combined with similar questions by a league question reviewer. We'll start first with our opening statements. We'll go in order of position. So we'll start first with Semra Riddle with position 1. You'll have 2 minutes to answer for your opening statement.
Thank you so much, and good evening, and thank you to Third Place Commons and the League of Women Voters for this forum tonight. I'm Semra Riddle. I'm your incumbent running unopposed for position 1. Lake Forest Park has been my home since 2010, and I've served the city since 2014, first on Planning Commission and now on City Council. I see my role as an elected official to represent all facets of my community, with the belief that today's policies deeply affect the kind of city our children's children will live in. I work towards future-proofing our policies, as well as creating policies that improve the environment, quality of life, and safety of our community for us and those who visit us. Being on council has opened up opportunities for me to make changes wider as well. As the chair of the Washington Community Forestry Council, I advise DNR Commissioner Franz on ways to improve urban forests across Washington state and increase access to underserved communities so they too can experience the benefit of trees as we do. As a governing board member for Healthier Here, I have helped improve health outcomes to disadvantaged Medicaid patients across King County. And as a founding member of the soon-to-be established North King County Coalition on Homelessness, I want to be sure that all our North End community members experiencing homelessness or housing insecurities are able to find the services they need. And thank you very much for this evening's forum.
Thank you so much. We will go next to position 3. We'll start with candidate John Lebo.
Good evening. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Third Place Commons for hosting this forum. I'm John Lebo. I'm running because I want to make a positive contribution to people's lives here in Lake Forest Park. Over these past several months, I've talked with many of you as I've walked around our diverse neighborhoods in Lake Forest Park. It's exciting to hear all the reasons why you love living here and what makes Lake Forest Park so special. The forest, the streams, the shared values with your neighbors, and the community feeling in your neighborhoods. I also heard your concerns about cars racing through the neighborhoods, the lack of sidewalks, and the lack of lake access. I heard concerns about affordable housing and homelessness in our community. Together, I think we can work to find practical solutions to these issues. I'll use my passion for Lake Forest Park, my energy, experience, and a common sense approach on the council to make sure we're addressing your needs and spending your money wisely. A little about me. I grew up here attending Shoreline Public School, starting with kindergarten at Lake Forest Park Elementary and graduating from Shorecrest High School. 12 years ago, I moved back to Lake Forest Park to raise our family and enjoy the amenities and character of our community. I'm an architect and project leader. I have 33 years experience in civic planning, design, and construction management. I served as a volunteer member of the Lake Forest Park Planning Commission for 7 years, 3 as chair. I heard your concerns and opposed the developer's planned 7-story apartment buildings in the town center. Working collaboratively with the other commission members, we opposed that and recommended to the council to retain the existing building height limits, improve open space and environmental requirements for the town center, and our council agreed. Let's work together to continue to make Lake Forest Park what is so special, so that we, our children, and our grandchildren can continue to live, work, and play in Lake Forest Park. Join me on November 2nd and vote for John Lebo, Lake Forest Park City Council, position 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go next to Stephanie Angelis. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, I first want to thank you all for being here, especially during a Seahawks game. I appreciate that. And I want to acknowledge that we are here on the traditional land of the Duwamish tribe, which is still seeking federal recognition and attendant rights. I am Stephanie Angelis, your candidate for Lake Forest Park City Council, position number 3. I graduated from UW environmental program with my minor in marine biology. And I'm happy to have fought against the open trains of coal passing along the Puget Sound and all of its waterways. We were successful with Puget Sound Keeper Alliance, and that was my final year as capstone on the POE, Program of Environment. Very happily out of college, I was involved with my Ballinger Neighborhood Association. Straight out of college, I got to serving on the chair there, and as well, I served on Shoreline's Council of Neighborhoods as chair at the end there. I spent about 5.5 years heading an environmental program for both PSE and SNOPUD, where we did energy efficiency education and provided rebates for people all over the state. So I have literally done events everywhere from Olympia, Thurston County to Canada over by Lyndon, Washington. And I am all about building community and finding out more about what our community is doing well and what we could be doing better as well, both from people that use our community, which as I've been out in the community, I've learned many people come from all kinds of cities around here to use our community parks and use our businesses. And we are really appreciative of people coming into our community and spending those dollars here. I'm very happy to be a part of the Lake Forest Park community and getting to be more involved here with the nonprofits and our great park stewardship. I am actually going to put a little plug in. I'm going to do an event here at Blue Heron Park, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'll be out there if anybody wants to come out and meet me, and all of the other candidates are always welcome. As well, on the 23rd, That's this Saturday, the 23rd Saturday. I will be at 5 Acre Woods, also doing a cleanup there. Actually, we're going to move some wood chips around. So come on over there.
Is up. Sorry.
Oh, my time's up. I'm so sorry. Thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll move on next to position 5. We'll go to candidate Furutani.
Thank you. And I also thank you, Third Place Commons and League of Women Voters, as well as everybody who's spending time with us tonight. My name's Tracy Furutani, and my family's lived in Lake Forest Park for 17 years. I grew up in a working class family, and my dad was a gardener. He didn't have the opportunity for education, so instead he worked hard to make way for his children. And as a result, I had the privilege to get a master's in chemistry and a geology degree from the University of Washington. So I've been teaching now for the past 25 years at North Seattle College, mostly in earth and space sciences, physics, and some other sciences. I've got the leadership and communication skills from being the negotiations chair for the American Federation of Teachers Local 1789 and being a grievance officer at the college. So for the past year, I've been preparing myself for this job by attending council meetings, learning the important issues, and writing about them in the Shoreline Area News. And I really recommend basically you take a look at that. It's a wonderful community resource. These experiences have prepared me for the job ahead. From being on the board of the Shore Lake Arts, volunteering with the Lake Forest Park Stewardship Stream Keepers Program, the Lake Forest Park Water District Advisory Committee, and volunteering in our schools teaching fourth graders about where our water comes from, I've gotten a lot of experience in talking to a lot of people about what's important in Lake Forest Park. In spite of our political differences, we love our natural environment, our streams, trees, schools, and sense of community. So what does this mean to you? Times are changing. There are many issues that affect Lake Forest Park: the town center redevelopment, cut through traffic, lack of affordable housing, the need for more bus access, safe streets and walkways, and on top of that all, the climate. We really need to address the climate crisis. So these issues impact our future, and I have the qualifications to lead us in the years to come. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We'll go next to candidate Maddie Larson. You'll have 2 minutes. You're still muted.
There we go. Thank you so much. First, thanks to Third Place Commons and the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I'm Maddie Larson, and I'm running for Lake Forest Park City Council because I'd like to help our community face the demands and pressures that come from living in a region experiencing exponential growth and a pressing need to address the impacts of climate change. I, like each of you, value Lake Forest Park. My husband and I moved here 8 years ago because of its unique character and beauty. Since then, we've personally worked to add to that character and reduce our own carbon footprint by renovating our home, one of the original little cottages that was built in 1915. We've also reforested half of the property our home sits on. I'm a lifelong educator focused on teaching kids how to think critically. I did that first as a classroom teacher, then over the last 20 years as a nonprofit leader focused on science education and community building through museums. In that time, I've effectively led complex projects with sizable budgets and diverse teams to produce measurable goals and outcomes that support our communities. I've also served on our Lake Forest Park Planning Commission for the last 3.5 years, and for the last year as chair. In that time, I've worked to represent our community's values as we've tackled code development for Sound Transit's parking garage, revisions to our town center building code, and now work on our accessory dwelling unit code. I've spent hundreds of hours demonstrating my commitment to both the community and this work. As a result, I've earned the unanimous support of my fellow planning commissioners and several past and present council members in my run for city council. I'd be honored to earn your support too. I hope the skills and experiences I've gained through both my professional and volunteer work will help you feel confident that I'll be an effective representative for you as we shape the future of Lake Forest Park.
Thank you so much. We'll go next to position 7, and we'll start with candidate Goldman. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello. Yeah, thank you to Third Place Commons and the League of Women Voters for putting on this event, and thank you everyone for attending. I'm Larry Goldman. I'm running for position 7. I am a chemistry instructor at the University of Washington, and we moved up to Lake Forest Park from the U District because we wanted to live somewhere that was more community centered, more green, quieter. while still having good access to the university and other locations. And we really like it here. Part of the reason why I'm running for city council is I want to maintain Lake Forest Park as that, having that very community-centered focus, while also looking for ways to improve the amenities and general livability for the residents of Lake Forest Park. Many of my core issues are related to the environment. I want to protect our trees and our streams. I want to make it easier for people to walk, bus, or bike around, improve the sidewalk infrastructure to let people navigate around the city. And I really just want to make Lake Forest Park a better place to live. I walk the walk in that, and I've chosen not to have a car. And so everywhere I get around is either where I can walk or where I can bus. And so I'm very mindful of what neighborhoods are more or less walkable or busable. As an educator, I believe in the value of communication. I communicate every day with my students, translating complex chemistry topics in a back and forth discussion with my students, and I would bring that approach to the city council, discussing complex issues involving land management and other ideas to make sure that the public is well informed about what the city council is doing. I also believe in government by consensus. That's how our department works. Ultimately, having long discussions and reaching a consensus that everybody can be happy with. And I would take the same approach to a very collegial city council to make sure we're all moving forward and we're all happy with the direction Lake Forest Park is taking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll go now to candidate Paul Sanford. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, thanks to the League of Women Voters and Third Place Commons for hosting this important forum. My name is Paul Sanford, and I'm running for Lake Forest Park City Council Position 7. This is a very important election. With 3 incumbents deciding to retire, this election will change the makeup of the council significantly. The council is like a team, and in January, 40% of the council will consist of new members, which is a major change to any team, let alone a legislative body. Also, a new council will be forming for the first time in the pandemic era. This will require novel approaches to integrating new team members, while keeping the city operational and meeting your needs. When I reflected on those 2 dynamics, I immediately thought, I can help with that. For over 20 years, I've worked in the technology industry, which is driven by dynamic change, ambiguity, and solving problems for the first time. Every quarter, I have new people joining teams around the world, new stakeholders to engage, new customers to serve, and new requirements for the products we have to build. My specialty is in accomplishing and scaling projects that have been on the wish list for a long time, but have just never been completed. We have that same dynamic here in Lake Forest Park. We've wanted to build sidewalks to better connect our neighborhoods with our schools. We've wanted to improve our parks. I want to make significant progress in those areas. At startups, I've worked closely with founders of companies who really care about preserving the culture and heritage of their companies. I've heard from you that you want to preserve the character of Lake Forest Park and our green heritage. I've heard that you want to make sure that we deliver more services and keep our community safe while being responsible stewards with the tax dollars that we receive. As a father of 2 boys at Kellogg Middle School, I've been an active volunteer in youth sports and school activities. Perhaps my most significant qualification is that I've wrangled 10 8-year-olds on the basketball court. So I believe I'm up to the challenge of serving on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into our prepared questions. Please feel free to submit any into the Q&A right now rather than the chat. We will try to get to as many audience questions as possible, but we will start with our prepared questions. So our first question, you'll have 1.5 minutes. Our first question is, what 3 things would you do to improve or deepen the city's position as a safe and strong community? We'll start first with candidate Angeles. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Hi, thank you. I would definitely say that we need to think about our structure and add to our services. So instead of just focusing our tax dollars on having a police force, perhaps having additional services. I know we do already have our radar, which is a great program, and it does focus on folks that may be having additional issues throughout their lives. And so the police are prepared to access them and know their pre-existing conditions. But I think that we could do a little bit better. I think perhaps having more domestic violence help. I know that's always going to be an issue, but I am aware that it is a particular issue due to the pandemic and just being more people stuck at home and having interpersonal issues, and perhaps, you know, that can be something that we can continue to work on. I think as far as our housing problem, if I may, the situation is that we're going to need more transitional housing for people, and just being thoughtful about where we place what and when we interact with folks, what we are trying to do as a city, and coming first with our ethics and building from there is really important for me. So it's really important to be safe, but it's also really important to make sure that even people that don't live here or vote here are also safe.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Lebo. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you for the question. As a council member, I think one of the most important things that we do for our community is to keep our community safe. And I see that as our highest priority. And part of that means that we need to have a community police that we support, that we fund properly, and that we encourage and to work with our community. And that part of that is community policing. That our police is out in the community. They're known by our community members. They're the people that you can go up to and talk to. As I have lived in Lake Forest Park a long time, I've enjoyed watching the police as they come through our communities. They're very approachable. Part of safety also means that we can get around in our community safely. So I will work to improve our sidewalks and trails through Lake Forest Park. It's also important that we support our community members, and we have diverse needs. I will continue to support our youth programs, make sure that our future leaders have the support that they need and have safe places to go. It also means that our seniors, and we support the senior programs as well, that they live in their homes and they feel safe with their environment around them. So I think when supporting police, sidewalks, and our human service programs, I think are a high priority as a council member. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will go now to candidate for Utani. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. So I echo the other candidates' comments about community policing. No question that the radar program and other such navigator-based programs are important. I want to put this in a larger context, though. Keeping our community safe means also providing an environment in which safety can at least be considered. Would be interested in working on a climate action plan, because danger comes from other places too, like for instance, extremes in weather. And so working with social services, trying to come up with plans for cooling centers or plans for warming centers when necessary. I'd also be interested in making a contribution to walkability and bikeability. These connections between neighborhoods are super important in building community and making sure that not all the policing has to come from the police, that we actually look after each other. So these are some of the ideas that I have, and but looking at them through a climate-based lens, one of the things I'd like to do is to place them all in the context of making this existential threat of climate change more accessible and more equitable. Try to come up with solutions that are going to work for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go next to candidate Larsen. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Such a rookie error. So great question. Safe and strong. I think on the front of safe, one of the things I've heard as I've been out to over 1,100 households in our community so far is a concern over pedestrian safety and cut through traffic. So I would highly prioritize measures to find additional funding and to spend time that our council would spend time planning to create traffic calming measures through our community and create safer pedestrian access. Also on the safety side, I would look to support and grow the work we've been doing with Health and Human Services partners. That includes health supports through partnerships that work with our Lake Forest Park Police Department. That includes the radar program. They have had amazing results working with that program to better serve our community when they're in times of need. And then in terms of creating a strong community, I would focus very much on the fiscal management of the tax dollars that we receive to make sure that our community is getting the maximum value for the funds that they're putting in to make sure our community is responding to the many different pressures and needs that we face as we look forward.
Thank you. We will go next to candidate Goldman. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So in thinking about safe communities, the first thing is I really like the radar program as a regional program to help to prioritize getting people the services that they need. I would like to see it expanded. So the first thing I would do is look at, how can we in our neighboring cities improve access to programs such as radar. The second thing, as others have said, I think being able to get around the city, so sidewalks. As I have gone around, there are some, and even in my own neighborhood, there are some streets that when I take my dog for a walk after this forum, I won't go on those streets at night just because there's no sidewalk, no street light, and just being mindful of where is it safe for us to go and when. And I would like to see that apply to the whole city. I'm looking at a comprehensive sidewalks plan. What neighborhoods are in desperate need of sidewalks? I think sidewalks to schools is a great place to start. And then continuing the conversation, where else in the city would benefit from an improved pedestrian infrastructure? And then lastly, I'd like to see more neighborhood involvement. I'd like to see the city help to coordinate neighborhood watch type programs. So that way we can help to look after our own neighbors. If we can strengthen neighborhoods, we can make it easier for people to just keep an eye on how things are going down the block. So radar and services, sidewalks, and better neighborhood watch programs. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Sanford.
Hi, thank you for that question. I would start on the safe side of the equation. I think we have to support our local police force. Having local control of the police force and also the fire department is critical. That's how we get feedback directly from people in our community, and there's accountability. So I think making sure that our police force is properly funded, that they have good morale and they have great leadership, which I think they do, by the way, that's really critical. Also with our fire department, there's a lot of activities happening right now with North Shore Fire Department, which are a bit concerning. I think we need to make sure that we support the firefighters here that are serving our community. I think our current council has done a great job of supporting our current firefighters. I want to put that out there for the record. The second thing is how can we just slow down a little bit when we're driving? That's really the neighboring communities, reducing cut-through traffic. Their traffic calming, there could be very, very subtle ways that we could look at doing that. I would support studies to make sure that we really look at where we're seeing that cut-through traffic, and we go about smart ways so we can make sure fire and police can still get to the communities quickly, but that we also start to slow down and mitigate and minimize the cut-through traffic. Lastly, we have to have gathering space and coming together. We can't have a strong community without organizations like Third Place Commons. So I would actively support the Third Place Commons. Keeping that physical space in the town center is absolutely critical, and I won't let anything or anybody try to take that away from us. Thank you.
And we will go next to candidate Riddle. You'll have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. A strong community to me is a community that cares for those that have needs. So those are our children, those that are at risk, and those that make the bulk of our community, our homeowners. And so for me, Prop 1 is important. We need those safe routes to school. Those are to be some of the first projects to get done so that our children can get to school safely. As we know, with traffic increasing, that's one area where we can really make a difference and increase safety. Additionally, my wonderful opportunities to have conversations with Brooke from Radar have informed me that we have an opportunity to get funding for a North End Crisis Center, which would help those that are the most critical in need in our community get immediate help, access, and eventually movement through that crisis center into treatment. So I think that's an area that I want to make sure that we are involved in and making sure we do in fact get one out here in the North End. And then third, blocking mailboxes. It's mail theft and identity theft is a big issue. We're going to start seeing it ramp up here as Christmas cards come in. We know it always happens every year. And I've been looking into a locking mailbox program that the city can help subsidize so that folks, even low-income folks, can have access to a safe locking mailbox for their letters and their mail.
Thank you so much. We'll go now to our next question, which we already have a lot of questions on this topic through the Q&A, so I'll give it a little extra time since many people have already asked. So the next question will be, the Lake Forest Park City Council has placed a property tax levy on the November ballot to fund sidewalks, safe pedestrian and bicycle connections, and park improvements. Property owners will face increased taxes of 59 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. What is your position on Prop 1? What would you do to support it if passed? And what are your thoughts on supporting parks if it does not pass? I will start first with candidate Larsen. We're going to give you guys 2 minutes since this has been asked so many times.
Thank you very much. Proposition 1, I think we've all noticed, has become a complicated issue in our town. I've talked with folks on both sides of the issue, and I understand a couple of things. I understand from my doorbelling and in having these conversations that there's nobody in our community that doesn't want to see us have safer streets. And there's not anybody who doesn't value parks in our community. I do understand the mechanism is challenging for some. They feel frustrated that there's not more specificity in what Prop 1 would fund, and that the mechanism does provide those funds forevermore. And on the other side, we need to start somewhere. We need to make progress on these infrastructure issues. And if I'm elected to council and the proposition does pass, I will work with my fellow council members, the community, and city staff to ensure that the funds that are collected are spent with community voice present, that our projects are clearly planned and budgeted, and that we make meaningful progress that's measurable, that we can report back to the community. I also understand that if it does pass, and for some reason, for those of you that are really concerned about it, it isn't working for our community, it's not forever in that regard. If it doesn't pass, I would feel very passionate about working with my fellow council members to identify a different funding package that could be utilized so that we can make progress on these infrastructure items. I will say, I think our council does need to also work on issues that affect many people I've talked with at doorbells, and that is that there are people who don't qualify for tax benefit or tax relief through the county.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll go next to candidate for Utah.
Yeah, and this is the big question. Yeah, we're all going to be voting on it in a couple of weeks. So my position is that I support Prop 1. I can be swayed, though. I have questions for both sides, so I'm very interested in the forum that Third Place Commons and League of Women Voters is sponsoring a bit later. The point is that we do need to make these investments, and I completely agree with the current city council that this seems to be a reasonable funding mechanism for it. The reason is that, until we show that we have some money to invest, no bank is going to bond us. So right now, rates are relatively low. So being able to turn $2 million that this proposition will raise into $20 million for improvements to the city seems like an excellent idea to me. The point, though, is that yes, we need more specificity. We need to have a good plan, safe streets, safe walkways. The parks, recreation, open space, and trails projects that are listed on the city site are reasonably good at basically narrowing down what's going to happen. But in terms of exact which projects are going to occur, they're not there yet. So I would like to see some more specificity on that. All right, so if the proposition passes, then it'd be my job as city council person to work on the implementation plan that the current city council is working on. That is to say, how is the money going to actually be used? Which are the projects that are going to be funded first? And how do we put them out to bid? If the proposition does not pass, then we would have to find another mechanism to fund these. These are investments, as I note, that are critical. For instance, the lakefront park that we have the land for now is going to require a significant amount of money to make it accessible and to make it safe. And so one of the things that I'd like to see is a development plan from the Parks Board to see what kinds of actions we need to take in order to make that park a little bit more useful. So thanks very much for the question, and I certainly am looking forward to the other answers.
Thank you. We will go next to candidate Sanford. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you for that. This issue is very near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I do have 2 boys at Kellogg Middle School, and I would like for them, and my boys did attend Brookside Elementary School as well. And 37th Avenue, that street is in the tier 1 streets for development if we can achieve the funding. So this is an issue that really touches the core of our community. I think that everyone agrees that we want to have sidewalks. The disagreement is really on the funding mechanism to get there and the details. So regardless of whether it passes, this is something that I can help out a lot with. In my day-to-day professional life, I build roadmaps and I help prioritize. I think if we have a strong roadmap with a lot more details into how we would spend that money, what kind of projects we would prioritize first, I think that would go a long way to moving us forward together as a community. In fact, I have people who are supporting me who are strongly pro Prop 1, and I have people supporting me who are against Prop 1 or are concerned about it. And the fact of the matter is, that's the kind of broad coalition that we're going to need to move together as a community forward, regardless of whether the proposition passes. I want to be very clear, though. As a private citizen, I do intend to vote for Prop 1. I vote for sidewalks. I vote for parks. I vote for transit. It's just what I do. So that's where I stand on the issue. The last thing I'll say is, regardless of what the legislation states, I will push for accountability, including doing quarterly town halls to address what are we doing with respect to Prop 1 if it does pass. Regardless of what the legislation says, I want to make sure that we're holding ourselves visible and accountable. And if I'm on the council, I will push for that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Goldman.
Thank you. So the short answer is I support Prop 1. I don't like the idea of raising taxes for the sake of raising taxes. I think there needs to be a compelling justification. And I do believe that the city has made a really convincing case for why Prop 1 is critical for the future success of Lake Forest Park. Whenever there have been community outreach, whether it was Safe Streets, the Prost Report, open houses, safe paths to schools, and Lake Washington Park have been near the top of the list. So those strike me as eminently reasonable places to start. I think there's some very good safeguards built into Prop 1, that the money would be put into a designated account and would only be used for pedestrian safety and parks. That way it couldn't be raided for general purpose. If I was on the council, I would commit to being transparent, to having communication with the public about what projects are being considered. I'm a data person, I'm in science, and I want to see the data when it comes to sidewalks. What neighborhoods are most in need of sidewalks, looking at proximity to amenities, schools, bus stops, restaurants, businesses, churches, things like that. Where have there been incidents? Where are cars speeding? Where are there very sharp curves and limited visibility? So using the data along with community input to prioritize where we're going to put sidewalks. I also think it can be an equity matter. There are some neighborhoods that have been asking for sidewalks for decades and don't have them yet. There are some neighborhoods such as mine that don't have any LFP parks in walking distance. And this can be a way to help remedy some of that historical inequity. In the event Prop 1 does not pass, I think we'll have to go and look for a more narrowly tailored approach, because these are still critical issues, and just scale it back and maybe come up with a more small bond to address some of the highest priority concerns. But I really do hope it passes. So I do support Prop 1. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Riddle.
Thank you. I support Prop 1 and I voted for the resolution 1810 to put it on the ballot. Resolution 1810 does lay out the framework that builds the basis of this, what this levy lift is going to do for us. It provides that dedicated funds with transparency. It does talk about what the money can be spent on directly related to those two reports, Safe Streets and Prost Plan. It says the money can't be spent until we have an implementation plan. And that implementation plan is something council's working on right now. And part of that implementation plan that we're working on is it's coming from the Parks Board. They will then prioritize projects. And then the city will put dollars to those. And then we can look at what is our fund balance, what is our expectations, what's our bonding capacity. And then council will propose a set of projects based out of the Parks Board, which is a citizen volunteer commission. And then that goes to a public hearing and the community gets input at that point as well. So there's multiple points of community input. So that's something that we're going to be passing here within the next while, hopefully before the second or third. Okay, so before November. Additionally, we have attempted to get funds for like safe routes to school for Brookside and Lake Forest Park. And we have missed the mark every time. We've tried and tried and tried. And what's amazing about the fact that we've been trying and failing to get the funding for that is those projects are basically shovel ready. So we are ready to hit the ground running if this passes. If it doesn't pass, we really have to think about how we're going to come back with a smaller levy lift, because going out for grants, going out for state money hasn't been successful for the last 5 years for these types of projects. They're just not big enough and they just aren't rising to the top of the list of approved projects for those funds. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Lebo.
Thank you. I'm a strong supporter of parks and recreation, sidewalks and open space. I think, as I've talked to many in the community, there's a strong support for it. But I think, though, that we are a bit premature. My career has been as an architect and a project manager and a project director. 25 years ago, my first project was $65,000, and I'm now managing a $3.6 billion transportation program. And in my years of experience managing construction projects, which have all been in the public sector, we've always put together a very detailed list of priorities that we're going to develop the project, that our program is complete, and that we've gone through a funding cycle. And the funding cycle means we put together prioritization, we understand where the money is coming, and we know how much we're going to spend for the projects. I laud the council for thinking about how to raise money for parks and recreation, but I think it's premature. And I will vote no, even though I'm a strong supporter of parks. Because I don't think that they've outlined in enough detail the priorities, the costs, and what they really want to achieve in this program. There are many ways to provide safe access, whether it be curbs, sidewalks, and other ways. I don't think that this program that they've developed, and as Semra has talked about, they're thinking about the implementation plan now. That really needs to be developed before you go to the voters. You need to go to the voters with a strong program about how you're going to do it. With my experience, I will be able to efficiently manage it if I'm a council member. And if it doesn't pass, I will ask those that are very passionate about parks but are opposing this proposal to come up with ideas about how we can move forward so that we do put together a very good program for the voters to consider. I think we're premature right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Angeles.
Hello, thank you again. I definitely support Prop 1 to be fully transparent. I was on the Sidewalk Action Committee for the City of Shoreline, and I did help them pass their sidewalk bond as well. We also did do it a little bit differently, and I will say it's a little more regressive what we did in Shoreline. It is a $20 vehicle license fee and then a sales tax. So ultimately, doing it this way, it is a little bit less regressive. Obviously, all of our mechanisms for taxing and creating these projects in our state are fully regressive, and that's unfortunate. If it was not passed, I would definitely work to fund these items in the least regressive manner, perhaps trying to do a sliding scale and getting people to actually buy in and, just do it in a different way. I mean, something more optional, I suppose. If it is passed, I will definitely happily work with my colleagues to keep the cost down and to increase potential revenue from our formation of the new waterfront park. I have already spoken about how I have some different ideas on that. Everyone that I speak to in the community when I do my outreach does want a waterfront park. They're very excited about that. They do not want to press the stop button. So I do imagine that this is going to pass. I hope that many of you will join us for next week's City Council meeting on the 14th. They will be discussing this plan in detail there. So please do join us there. That would be great to have more people. And some ideas really quick about the waterfront park are having a pavilion for rental, so we could help pay for things that way. We can help have rentals for kayak usage, and potentially even a swim club where we teach kids how to swim. I used to do that for Montlake Terrace Pool, so good times.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. The question is, what is your vision for the future of the town center, Third Place Commons, and how will you achieve that? We'll give you 1 minute for this, and we will start with candidate Riddle.
Thank you. So I'm on record of what my vision is as we discussed the sub-area plan revisions. I want to see a town center that is community focused, that has community spaces, that is not driven by pure economics, that is always necessary in order for it to function as a private industry, but that there's integration of art, open spaces, and access to the public to the Whispering Willows Park and the Lion Creek, and really maintaining the things that we love about the facilities that are down there, maintaining Third Place Commons, but allowing growth as necessary so that we stay functional and we can have a vibrant community center.
Thank you. We will go next to candidate Goldman. You'll have 1 minute.
Yep, thanks. In terms of town center, I think that the zoning regulations that were passed by the city council earlier this year, they strike me as a reasonable compromise. They would bring in some residential units, some affordable housing, which is critically important. I'm aware of this firsthand. When we moved up from the U district, we had to go, I think, 70,000 over the asking price just to win the bidding war, and that's not sustainable. So affordable housing is important, but it's not going to be so much that it'll overwhelm the infrastructure. Community is also critical. Whatever happens to the town center, there needs to be a space for the farmers market. There needs to be a community gathering space, something like what Third Commons is right now. And so I'm glad that whatever development proposals are put forth, that there will be more opportunities for public input. The city council will have some input on it, because we can balance affordable housing with a community-focused center. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sanford, you'll have 1 minute.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, I kind of like the town center and Third Place Commons the way it is right now. So I think that the current city council did a very good job with the zoning changes that they made, including having affordances for affordable housing and keeping the number of units down. I think that's really critical. It's a very sensitive area with the watershed. We have to be very careful with how we develop around those streams. So that's really important to me. it's really true that we don't know what questions these are, because I've already stated my position on third place commons in the earlier question. I'm a big believer in gathering spaces. The farmers market is a tremendous asset to our community. So I want to continue to support those physical gathering spaces where we can come together and be a community and support each other, but also give back. You know, I'm thinking about the Pack the Park race when we were able to do that pre-COVID. That whole area down there is a great gathering place. So I'd love to see more community activities and engagement and those kinds of events down there at the town center. Thank you.
We'll go next to candidate Angeles.
Hello again. I would be happy to discuss my plans or my thoughts about the town center. I would probably go into way more detail than 1 minute can actually allow. So many of you may have already heard me speak about potential for a community land trust. That would be something where we would bring in funds from different counties, different cities, and really come together as a community to help purchase the land and then sell units as affordable units to people. They would be set on their interest on increase, so they would not be able to increase 10, 15, 20% like standard single family home, and that would allow it to be permanently affordable housing. They use 99-year leases and then an optional additional 99-year lease to achieve that. I really would love to see that there one day. I'm young, so it might take a long time to see that, but that would be something I will plan to work on regardless of if I am elected to council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Lebo.
Thank you. As a commission member, we wrestled with what did we want the town center to be? And I think we heard really well from the community. They wanted a vibrant community retail space, a real center for Lake Forest Park. They also wanted it to fit the character and sort of feel for Lake Forest Park. And so as a commission member, we struggled with those issues, and I pushed very strongly that we should have what we think is appropriate for Lake Forest Park. And that meant that we should have low scale buildings, not what the developer wanted. We should improve the environment opportunities, make it more walkable, make it the place where people want to go and spend their time. And if that meant that this developer wouldn't do it, then we should wait. And that's what I pushed for when I was on the commission, and that's what the city council approved. There are opportunities for us to improve it as a gathering space. The farmers market is great. The youth and senior services is a great component of the town center. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate for Utani.
Thanks. Yes, I agree with the other candidates about the need for a vibrant community space that we can all share. Further, I'd like to see it be a model for sustainable building. I love the idea of having a lot of social services placed there, as well as housing, as well as retail, and fitting in the character of our community. So why not have a community solar project there, for instance, or a community wind project? Why not make it a net carbon emission zero kind of building? And the point being that we can model what we want to see in the rest of our community at that point. And I think the visibility of that area, the fact that so many people from other places come, it gives us a chance to really show what Lake Forest Park is about, that we are a community that cares about our environment as well as the people in it. Thanks.
Thank you. And next we'll have candidate Larsen.
Thank you. As John mentioned, our planning commission did work on the parking garage and town center code, and I'm really proud with what we came up with. And in large part, it was due to John Lebo's leadership for our planning commission and advocating for a project that fits within the values that we have as residents here in Lake Forest Park. And we talked a lot about that Lake Forest Park could be an exemplar for our community. It is our town center. We need these gathering spaces. It is an environmentally sensitive area. And if we have the right partner through a public-private partnership, we could in fact attract a development that benefits both current residents and provides opportunities for future residents within that space. I think we have an opportunity to be an exemplar, and I'm encouraged by the fact that, that Merlo and Geyer is talking about subdividing and that maybe we could buy a parcel and really develop it.
Thank you. Okay. So since we are getting so many audience questions, I will kind of pivot to those in combo. First one that we received with one that was already prepared, since they're in the same vein. And we'll give you 1 minute for this question. What are your past experiences that qualify you to understand and represent the interests and concerns of Lake Forest Park residents? And what would be your approach to responding to citizen issues brought to your attention? So we'll go 1 minute. We will start with candidate Lebo.
Thank you. I grew up in Lake Forest Park, and I've lived here for over 28 years. I moved back here so that our family could enjoy the amenities of Lake Forest Park. I was on the Planning Commission for 7 years, 3 of those as chair. So we received a lot of community input. And I think one of the things that we strongly wanted to do was to respond to our community in a positive way. And I'll continue to do that. My professional experience has all been in the public sector. And that means that we go out and present to the public for our projects, and we get feedback and we modify our projects. One of the things I can do is bring diverse groups together, listen to them, and come up with creative and positive solutions. And that's what I'll bring to the council: a practical sense, positive, solution-oriented council member. Thank you.
We'll go next to candidate Angeles. You'll have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you. I would say my experiences doing the marketing that I've done all over the state is the top of the list. I've definitely experienced everything from people that were very unhappy to be hearing about any type of efficiency to turning them around and having them be like, well, I guess if it's going to save me some money, then that's all that really matters. So it's a whole broad spectrum of folks out there. And I really appreciate that all those people are part of our city too. A lot of folks come and go, and you know, they all experience our city too. Like we said, it is kind of a pass-through community. A lot of folks come here, they experience our third place commons, and you know, it's really important to be able to outreach to everyone and really, you know, respect diverse voices and be able to calmly take criticism and know that, you know, we're not always going to be right as a city, and asking what they like about us is just as important as asking about what they don't like about us. That way we can all do better. And, you know, I want to see a future where my kids want to grow up here. I don't have them yet, but I hope to. And I'm probably past my time. I'm sorry, I can't see the timer. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go move on next to candidate Riddle.
Thank you. So my background started in architecture, and I did medical design. And if you ever sat around a large table with neurosurgeons, nurses, and housekeeping and tried to come to a consensus across that, you know that it can be challenging. But I've been successful at bringing together these folks who have very unique needs and very unique focuses and creating consensus. I've continued that process in construction. And right now I'm a VDC coordinator, which means I coordinate the project in 3D. And I work with all of our trades that are actually going to be out there building it on site. And I work with them to build it virtually ahead of time so we can find problems. And it's bringing people of their own interests together to a common goal through consensus and focus and driving that forward. And lastly, on council, I listen to my community, whether it's through email, which is sometimes not the best way to communicate, but I'm listening, public comment. And obviously when we have an imminent need, we do public workshops and we bring in a kind of a heightened sense of community involvement for specific needs. And I'm always there listening at those as well.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Larsen.
Great, thank you. In my professional life, I've spent my entire career working with diverse stakeholder groups to accomplish very ambitious goals. I work regularly with research scientists, university personnel, state legislators, state boards of education, and many others to bring really robust education projects to our schools and teachers and students. I also, on Planning Commission, I've demonstrated this commitment of prioritizing community, whether it's through provisions in our code that give our community greater voice, to generating community surveys to get input where we're lacking community voice. And I've mentioned to many of you as I've been out doorbelling that this is one of my big priority items is community building and listening to residents' needs and balancing those with what we can do as a city. I will follow the model that our mayor and one of our council members has and have regular coffees in order to have conversations and hear from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go next to candidate for you, Tony.
Thanks. One of the things that I'd like to say is I respond to emails. I'm a teacher, and I cannot believe that people don't respond to emails. So being responsive, I think, is a real big part of this job description. Moreover, I'd like to hold some of these street talks, as they've been called, where on Zoom, a lot of people can zoom in and basically see what's going on with not just one's neighborhood, but also I would like to extend it to City Council, just be able to talk to people and get feedback from them directly that way. We've demonstrated with this forum that this is a viable technique, and I know it's sort of inequitable because you have to have good internet and all that stuff, but perhaps there's a way that we could actually extend it out to the community. And finally, one thing I'd really like to bring to the fore is that I'm I've been on negotiations teams, and that's one of the most difficult situations where you're trying to get a contract and also basically being able to try to satisfy the needs of the other side. I'd like to think I'm a very collaborative person, and I have the experience to bring a bunch of diverse groups together and be able to come up with an agreement. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go now to candidate Sanford.
Great, thank you for that. This is an area that I get really excited about because I do this every day in my professional life. I talk with customers and investors and analysts, and I start by getting really curious, and I just ask them a lot of questions. I ask, what do you care about? What do you not feel good about? What should we start doing, stop doing, keep doing? What is impossible for you to do today that you would like to do? I want to bring those same kind of questions and curiosity to Lake Forest Park. What's impossible for us to even envision as being possible today? Let's start to talk about that. I want to hear those ideas and hear those thoughts, because oftentimes I've learned the best ideas, the best proposals, the best policy comes from my customers. It comes from the stakeholders. So I really want to bring that curiosity and question asking directly to the community. A way to do that is through quarterly town halls. Just like in the business world, we have quarterly earnings reports. I want to have quarterly town halls where we have more give and take. I've heard from people as I've been knocking on doors.
Sanford, I'm sorry.
They want to hear more give and take, and I'll honor that by stop talking now.
Thank you. We will go next to candidate Goldman.
Yes, I'm a teacher and I'm a communicator, and I would bring that to the council. As I've said before, just being able to take complex ideas and have a constructive back and forth with members of the public. Something as a professor, I hold regular office hours, and as a candidate, I have candidate office hours. They're through Zoom, and if I was on the council, I would commit to something very similar, regularly scheduled office hours, so that any member of the community could drop in and we could have a talk. What is it that they like about what's happening? What are they confused by? What do they dislike? And we could have a constructive discussion and hopefully reach a consensus. I'm also very willing to put in the hard work. So far, I've been to well over 2,000 doors all around the city. I've tried to hit really every neighborhood just to hear as broad a range of opinions as I can. And I would continue that if elected. I want to hear from all around the city, what are people's specific concerns?
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. We have lots of interest in knowing about how the candidates feel and what they would do about the noisy and racing cars. So constituents believe that this is an issue in Lake Forest Park, and they're interested to know, if elected, what concrete steps would you take to address this issue? We'll give you 1 minute, and we'll start with candidate Sanford.
This is a big one. I think that we have to start with enforcement, and I think that we have a strong police force today, but they are limited in where they can get and how quickly they can get there. So I think this is where we need to start to put together a special, perhaps hotline or a special conduit forum, so that people in the community can directly contact somebody who would be responsive to those needs. Because the racing is happening at all hours of the day. it's very, very, very fast in our communities. And we have a lot of hairpin turns that make it really hard. So I'd like to look at ways we can get a faster line directly so we can get responsive. I would even look at where we have documented evidence of those items happening. Let's start to look if we can look at cameras, if we can put some temporary traffic calming measures in place just to disrupt and let them know that it won't be possible. And hopefully we'll wreck their car in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Goldman.
Yep, this is something I'm mindful of. My particular development, we serve for people as kind of the cut through traffic for people leaving Deja Vu and who want to head south on Lake City Way. And so that's happening in early hours of the morning. So I'm mindful of that. I'm a data person. I want to be able to see where is this happening. The city does have a program. They partner with the county, and that if complaints are made about a certain area, they'll set up and they'll collect data, how many cars are going by, what's the average speed, what fraction of cars are speeding, how much so. And then based on that, they can take action. From what I can see, the program is somewhat dormant. I think we should bring it back and expand it. That way there can be community engagement and collecting data to find out, because we do have limited resources, but let's prioritize the worst areas that are in the most desperate need of being fixed. So collect the data, send the police to enforce in those locations. Thank you.
We'll go next to candidate Angeles.
Yes, I'd love to speak on this one. I have gotten some feedback out in my walking and my park meetup and talk events, and I have a couple notes here actually. There's the road that's going to Grace Cole Park is particularly bad. It's a straightaway, so people apparently go and race down that and around the corner and whatnot. I would say that these are places ripe for some speed bumps or even the temporary plastic speed bumps. I would say if the city doesn't have the money, maybe they can create a program where they contact with several neighbors and say, hey, would you like to put in together and put in a speed bump in front of your home? There's another corner right near Horizon View Park that I heard about from a Seattle firefighter and his family, and that's a really bad corner right there. We could just do a couple bumps before and after, before the stop signs, and that will keep people safe or keep people safer and hopefully get them to stop at the stop sign, which maybe they're not doing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Lebo.
Thank you. As I walked around Lake Forest Park, I heard from many, and they did talk about people racing through their neighborhoods, people cutting through their neighborhoods. So clearly we need to gather the data, and our community members are a great source for that. There are ways to reduce this. One is to have a presence out there, and that is enforcement. Our radar can help do that so that we can record the speeds. We also need to reinforce that this is a community that has children. So putting up signs that say slow down for children. One of the things I'd also do is move to reduce the speeds in Lake Forest Park. Why do we have a 2-lane road that's going 40 miles an hour in Lake Forest Park? Why aren't we putting up simple things that can help reduce speeds? In our neighborhood, they put up some plastic pylons to create a chicane to slow down traffic. Those are inexpensive ways to do that. And as a council member, I would look for us to look all over Lake Forest Park to find ways that we could reduce the speeding in our neighborhoods with cost-effective solutions. Not everything needs to be a really expensive project. I think our neighbors are concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on now to candidate Furutani.
Yes, in my doorbelling, I've heard every neighborhood has at least one street that has a problem like this. And one of the things I'd like to be able to establish is a program by which one can report these kinds of things. I agree that data gathering is super important, but the neighbors are going to be the best way to get the data. And so if we had one central repository in public works, for instance, in the city, and find out where all these problems are occurring and emphasize and put our emphasis on spending resources to put traffic calming measures there, I think that go a long way. One of the things that we don't know is where the traffic is coming from. So that'd be another piece of data that'd be very interesting to find out, whether it's a local problem or if it's a regional problem. And if it's a regional problem, can we partner with our neighbor cities to actually start working on the roads that lead into Lake Forest Park? So I'd really like to see basically much more data collected on this and have a central repository so that we can make good policy. Thanks.
Thank you. And next we'll go to candidate Larson.
Great, thanks. I want to say in terms of enforcement, I think some of this is really challenging. My husband and I live on 178th, just around the corner from 28th on the way to Grace Cole. And we literally take our life into our own hands going out to walk our dogs in the evenings. And so I can really appreciate what I've heard from neighbors about speeding and about racing. It is a huge barrier to any of our goals to reduce our emissions and our own carbon footprints by being able to walk through our community. And it's critical that we address this. Specific things that I'm interested in is, first of all, continuing to support our police department, who is doing a great job of serving our community. But the fact is that we are seeing speeding in every neighborhood. And I think that we have a really great start with our Safe Streets report, where we've already identified really critical areas. And I think we need to look at how we fund and plan for those. And I'm out of time. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Riddle.
Thank you. So outside of neighborhood cut through traffic and just, sort of speeding neighbors, when it comes to the racing, it really needs to be a regional solution. So we need to be working with our neighbors to really crack down. I know Kenmore found a prolific racing kind of lead there that they arrested some months ago. So we really do have to come together as a community. So that means supporting our police department and what it is that they need in order to make those connections, join those groups, and then understanding where they need to be doing more enforcement. Also education, even in our high schools. I know I've personally seen some of these racing, speeding, race car style speeders that they're teenagers, they're in high school. And then looking at then what's next, permanent, temporary traffic calming, or even, lobbying with Washington State. We're not allowed to put the red light type cameras or the school light cameras for just straight up speeding. It's not allowed in the Washington State Code at the moment. So what does that look like? And is that a tool that we need to start asking for from our state legislature?
Thank you. So I do want to honor the time we've set aside for tonight, but we do have a ton of audience questions. So I'd like to get to at least one more. So I'll do kind of a speed round if that's okay with you candidates, since the constituents are so interested in this event. We'll do 30 seconds for this question. They'd like to know what measures do you support to increase affordable housing options and your opinion on ADUs? So we will go first with candidate Furutani. I know it's a lot to fit in, but we'll go for 30 seconds for this question.
Oh no, this question has been considered by the Planning Commission, and I applaud their work on it. As one of the council members said, gentle densification is probably the way to go, and I think that's what the new ADU, DADU code is going to do. So I'm very much in favor of that, and making sure that neighborhoods and of course traffic have a chance to settle into a new pattern before we start densifying even further. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Larson.
I am actually chairing our Planning Commission right now's work on our ADU code, and I support ADUs. I think it's an ideal way of adding housing to our community that offers smaller square footages, which by extension are more affordable for communities. And I also think one of the best things that we can do to increase affordability in our neighborhood is to create diverse housing. We are primarily seeing very large houses being built in our community, and we need some smaller houses.
Thank you. We'll go next to candidate Goldman.
I agree with others. I think a gentle approach of increasing affordable housing is the right way to go about it. I like the approach for town center. I think that could have pay dividends with some more affordable housing. And I've been following the Planning Commission, and I quite like what they're doing with ADUs. I think that's a reasonable approach to make it easier for residents to build ADUs, especially if they're in kind of odd shaped lots, but they do have enough space. And really anything we can do to help increase supply to try to bring housing costs down.
Thank you. And next candidate Sanford.
Yeah, I've been monitoring the ADU development with the Planning Commission as well, and I believe that that's a reasonable approach. We should be very targeted with respect to how we look at increasing density here in Lake Forest Park. I've heard from a lot of people in the community where there are concerns about losing trees due to developers who are just cutting down trees wantonly. So I'd like to look at that if I'm elected in the council. And I believe that ADUs are a good toehold into the housing ladder. And we should make that more reasonable for homeowners to do that. I also think it builds better continuity in our community by bringing different people from different backgrounds
Thank
into our
you.
community. Thank you.
And next we'll have candidate Riddle.
Thank you. Diversity of housing is what we really need. So what I'm hoping to do first is doing a housing study, was something that council wanted to do before, to get a baseline of where we're at. I really appreciate the work that Planning Commission is doing on the ADUs, that's accessory dwelling unit, and DADUs, or detached accessory dwelling units. Can't wait till that comes in. I'm hoping the town center gets those affordable housing units that we've added down there, but it's really a balance between parking, trees, lot size. So it's really just coming together as a community and understanding where we want to give and where we want to take.
Thank you. Candidate Lebo.
So when I was a council member, I worked on cluster housing that we recommended at the city council. We recommended it as a pilot program. I think it was expanded too much, so I would consider cluster housing again. I am a strong supporter of diverse housing, including detached accessory dwelling units. When I was on the commission, we pushed for low-income affordable housing as part of the town center redevelopment code. So I think housing opportunities is important in Lake Forest Park, and I strongly support diversity of housing. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Angeles.
I do also support ADUs and DADUs. I would say that it is very important to consider how we do these regulations for said units, because if you look at many other cities' codes, and I imagine what our code might end up looking like would be restricting such units to family members and ourselves as homeowners, and that does not actually help people that are lower income and not able to own homes, or not connected in some way by family to those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will do our last question, again, 30 seconds in honor of the time and to try and fit in as many as we possibly can. So another question that came up was, what will you do to actively promote more racial and socioeconomic diversity in Lake Forest Park? So we'll go 30 seconds and we will start with candidate Goldman.
I think equity is critically important, and it's very much tied to neighborhoods. I think the city should be looking at data as to where people are living, demographics, and use that as part of how they prioritize new projects. Are there certain neighborhoods that are more racially diverse that have been denied to resources, for instance, not having access to the civic club, so they don't have any Lake Washington access? So look at demographics and income inequality as a way of prioritizing where they're going to put parks, sidewalks, and other amenities.
Thank you so much. Candidate Sanford.
I think it starts by modeling the right behavior. I recently read the book by Ta-Nehisi Coates called Between the World and Me, and it's a very powerful book. And if you haven't read it, the premise is, if you want to be free, you have to stop believing the dream and focus on reality. And that's really powerful. So I think we have to look at reality and model the right behavior. We're doing that with my boys. They're learning about redlining in sundown towns in our schools. And I think that's tremendous. It opens up an opportunity for us to change perspectives and also make sure that we give our kids the values around empathy and concern for others that are critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Riddle.
It's about understanding our history and how we got here, and then understanding the policies that drove us here, and really recognizing the impact our policies can have on these, both positive and negative. And oftentimes it's unintended in this day and age. So it's really trying to be really conscious of that. What is this really going to impact on our community, and is it positive or negative? Additionally, I really want to create an equity guideline that can help guide the city through its decision-making process to basically make it sure it's asking those questions for any policies or work that it is doing.
Thank you. Candidate Angeles.
I think it's really important to work on education in the city. I think that folks can be given resources, and we can work towards being a more inclusive and equitable city by working on our anti-racism. I personally have been on that journey. I mean, we'll all be on that journey as long as we care to be there. And it's really important to just examine our own thoughts and patterns and what we can do to change them in our own lives. I personally do a lot. I won't ring my own bell, but that's it.
Thank you. Candidate Lee.
I think it's important that we become an anti-racist city. And I work for an organization where that is a prime consideration. And we also consider social equity needs, not just that we're equal, but that we provide opportunities that have less than what most of us have. Make sure that they have dignified places to live and they have enough to eat. So I'd ask our community as a council member to make sure that we're looking at that lens of making sure that we are a social justice city where we have fairness, equity, and opportunity for those that may have less advantages than we do.
Thank you. Candidate Larson.
Sure. As an individual, in my work and at home, I think that one of the best things that we can do as neighbors is to practice self-awareness and self-reflection and do the personal work to grow as a community. As a council member, I think our biggest opportunities lie in our policies. And one of the best ways to improve access in Lake Forest Park is by having more diverse housing, more housing options, more types of housing, smaller housing that provide better entry points for more people.
Thank you. And candidate Furitani.
Two things come to mind. One of them is symbolic, which is to look at our covenants that we have in a lot of the properties in the city and make sure that we eliminate all those ones that have to do with racial barriers or with economic barriers. There's still plenty of them out there. Secondly, I'd like to see an equity note in the same way we have fiscal notes on our legislation showing how our legislation is going to increase or decrease the equity in our society. Thanks.
Thank you. And as we reach the end of the night, we're going to be moving on into our closing statements. Each candidate will get 1 minute. So we will start with candidate Sanford. You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Well, thanks to the League of Women Voters, Third Place Commons, and the attendees for all the great questions. You know, I used to roll my eyes when candidates would say that running for office was a privilege and a profound experience. But I have to admit that it's much more than just political posturing. It's very true. I'm originally from a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. When I saw Lake Forest Park, I thought to myself, wow, I found all the good things about what I had in a kid growing up in Michigan. I could get out into nature at a moment's notice. This green oasis that we have here is truly special. I recalled the advice my grandpa gave me. He was on the city council in his small town in the Upper Peninsula. He used to say to me, Paul, you have to get out there in the community to see what the residents are seeing. Visit their homes. If they say the street light is out at 9 p.m. and they're scared, get out there with them and see for yourself. I want to continue following through on the advice my grandpa gave me, working for you on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Goldman.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for hosting this event and moderating it. I'm really glad I moved to Lake Forest Park. It is a great place to live. I'm glad I'm here and I want to give back. I see serving on city council as almost like a civic duty, a way to give back to the community. And I really want that opportunity. I really like how environmentally focused we are here, and I can think of ways to make it even more attractive, to provide more opportunities for people, to make it an even better place to live. If you had a time machine and went back in time 5 years and told me that this was where I would be in 5 years, I wouldn't have believed you. This has been a very interesting and ultimately it's been a very gratifying journey to run for office, to get to meet so many of my neighbors and to just have an opportunity to help make things better for them. So please, yeah, I hope to have your support next month. Yeah, please vote for Larry. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Larson.
Well, first, I'd be honored to earn your support as one of your representatives on our city council. You can count on me to give voice to your interests and concerns and to work collaboratively with the rest of the council, city staff, and community partners on policies and initiatives that help our community thrive. Together, we can become exemplars in our region for environmental policies that effectively address climate change, for balanced growth through a holistic approach to policymaking, and by promoting diverse housing options that help Lake Forest Park make sensible contributions to the housing needs in our region. This kind of stewardship will not only ensure Lake Forest Park remains an amazing place for us to live, it will allow us to leave a positive legacy for future generations. I'm Maddie Larson, and I'd be grateful for your vote.
Thank you. Candidate for Utani.
Thanks, League of Women Voters and third place comments for this forum. And thanks everybody for your attention. What we can all agree on is that there are 7 candidates on stage tonight who truly want to work for the benefit of the people of Lake Forest Park, so you can't lose how you vote. Regardless which way this election goes, there's no doubt that if we're gonna work through these many issues we discussed tonight, and for me, especially the climate, we must work together as a community and as a city government. My background and knowledge, I'm a problem solver, I'm a hard worker, I work well on teams, I'm very collegial, will provide a much needed voice on the council, and my skills will bring us together to effect this change. My name is Tracy Furtani, I appreciate your vote, and I remind you to vote by November 2nd.
Thank you. Candidate Lebo.
I want to thank those that have joined us in this important discussion tonight to take the time to hear all the candidates. I'm running for Lake Forest Park City Council because I want to make a positive contribution to people's lives here. I've heard from many of you what makes Lake Forest Park so special. I will work to continue the ongoing forest and stream restoration projects and continue to support our community programs for youth and seniors. My volunteer experience as a planning commission chair, a youth soccer coach, and my background as an architect and construction manager for large public projects provide me with a unique set of skills to address the issues facing our community. As a council member, I will work with all the citizens of Lake Forest Park to address your concerns for speeding cars, the lack of sidewalks and trails, and lake access. I'll work to create a climate action plan for LFP. I will work with our neighboring cities and the King County Regional Homeless Authority to make sure that we can find dignified solutions to those lacking basic housing opportunities. I'll use my experience and common sense approach to find practical solutions to your concerns and make sure we spend our money wisely to address our current and future needs of Lake Forest Park. Join me on November 2nd and vote for John Lebo. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Angeles.
I want to thank you all again for your time tonight and thank the League of Women Voters as well as the Commons for having us. I want to run through my top 3. The environment, climate change is the biggest thing we're going to be fighting for the foreseeable future and going to be impacting my children's lives. Your community access, so getting that waterfront park and getting the community built around the civic center is very important to me. And last but not least, doing affordable housing, doing it in a way that's sustainable and it's not going to impact how we feel about our community and our aesthetic. Last but not least, I really want to do a plug for my events. So please do come out on Saturday, come meet me in person, ask me anything. My Facebook, my cell phone, everything's available. I'm honored to have your vote. If you have any questions, I'm always available. And last but not least, NUSA is still looking for volunteers for their overnight winter shelter. So North Urban Human Services Alliance, check them out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Candidate Riddle.
So I've spoken of my sincere interest in our environment, which includes the City Climate Action Plan, the safety of our community, social justice, housing diversity, and a solution for mail theft. What I haven't spoken of yet is a way to reinvigorate and improve our art program to be sure that we're securing art funds from all of our construction projects to showcase local talent or our deep history across our city. So I look forward to being part of shaping a vibrant, engaging community for the years to come. And thank you for your support, your ideas, and hopefully your vote.
Thank you so much. The League of Women Voters of Seattle-King County thanks Third Place Commons for hosting this event and the candidates for their participation and thoughtful answers, and especially to the citizens of Lake Forest Park for being here and for their participation as well. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to all of your questions, but hopefully you'll have more opportunities throughout this election season to speak to and ask questions of your candidates. So as a reminder, ballots will be mailed next week, so keep an eye out. If you're not registered to vote, the last day to register online is October 25th, but you can also register in person all the way up through Election Day. So thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate your time and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.